Alright, so I just read an article, and it basically just talks more about how patenting and that whole system has kind of corrupted innovation and kind of stifled inventors to some extent since the very beginning. Basically, they talk about the telephone and kind of the story behind who got or granted a patent for that technology back in the 1800s, and how that kind of went down and why the patent filing system wasn't really fair in this situation. So basically, Alexander Graham Bell is the person who was granted with the first telephone patent, and that was in 1876. But Antonio Meucci, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, he was the first person to actually come up with the idea around 1856. And unfortunately, he didn't have enough money to pay for to file a patent, basically, for his technology that he came up with. And so here we have a perfect example of someone who came up with an idea but doesn't have enough money to basically play the game and like get credit for their work. Then later on, Elijah Gray, so this is a little bit later. Gray basically he was one of the founders of Western Electric and definitely knew what he was doing. Like, they were kind of talking about how Antonio may have kind of just come up with the idea of the telephone, but would have maybe not been able to make that happen, or actually make it become a real product. Whereas Gray actually uses a liquid transmitter, and which would be able to transmit sound, and that was definitely his technology that he came up with. Bell and Gray were working on this technology at the same time. Gray was kind of making headway. He filed for a patent, but didn't receive the patent because Bell had paid off the USPTO to tell him when someone filed a patent for anything that had anything to do with the telephone. And then when Gray filed it, Bell filed the same day, and Bell received the patent because basically he had paid off his lawyer and the government agency. So that's pretty sad because, again, if you have a good lawyer and you have a lot of money, you can manipulate the situation to your advantage. That's basically kind of what it seems like. And it's a little disheartening. It seems like the little guy loses out a lot, and this kind of is something that I feel like I see a lot with startups that really struggle against other like established giants because of those reasons. So, I mean, again, I'm not sure. I think there is room for reform, but I just found it interesting that even in the 1800s, patents really stifled technology.